Where do the Las Vegas Raiders currently stand? And what lies ahead for new head coach Pete Carroll as he tries to reshape the silver and black into a contender? With training camp fast approaching, the questions grow louder. The rankings are in, and they don't flatter the Raiders. Analysts are weighing in. Podcasts, debates, and video segments, everyone has something to say. But when it comes to the Raiders, one truth remains. There's work to be done. Pete Carroll steps into one of the league's most passionate fan bases with a mission to restore pride, discipline, and toughness to a franchise that has drifted from its iconic identity. In today's NFL, just slogans like commitment to excellence or just win, baby, aren't enough. The AFC West is a battlefield, and the Raiders have no room for error. Carroll must face the challenge head-on, fixing a broken culture, rebuilding consistency, and establishing a new standard in a division loaded with quarterback talent and Super Bowl aspirations. What specific challenges will Carroll face? We'll break that down in detail, 3 key obstacles that could define whether this team rises or continues to fall. And across the league, the conversation hasn't stopped. Former NFL safety and Super Bowl champion Ryan Clark recently shared his thoughts on where the Raiders stand. On a segment with ESPN's Mina Kimes, they ranked teams across the league, and the Raiders' placement sparked plenty of debate. It's the calm before the storm right now, but make no mistake, training camp is nearly here. The headlines will heat up. There are still major free agents like Justin Simmons, Amari Cooper, and Keenan Allen waiting to sign. The moment they do, the dominoes fall. The intensity rises. The time for talk is nearly over. The real story begins on the field. NFL analysts across the league are deep into ranking season. Whether it's quarterbacks, defenses, or full team power rankings, every fanbase is watching to see where their squad lands. For the Las Vegas Raiders, the verdict from ESPN's Ryan Clark and Mina Kimes came in recently. 25th overall. It's not a flattering spot, but it's also not shocking. The Raiders finished with just 4 wins in 2024. No matter the talent or potential, that kind of record drags you down in any preseason projection. Still, there was more to this ranking than just a low number. Clark and Kimes didn't dismiss the Raiders outright. In fact, their discussion revealed something deeper, a belief that Pete Carroll is trying to bring the Seattle formula to Las Vegas. A system built on toughness, physicality, and a run-first identity. Ryan Clark pointed out that the Raiders have already started moving in that direction. Drafting Jeanty, a powerful, downhill runner, suggests that Carroll wants to control the pace of the game with a reliable ground attack. But the success of that plan hinges on one thing: the offensive line. Can this unit create space? Can it impose its will like Carroll's lines once did in Seattle? Clark also referenced the college dominance of Carroll's offensive mind, noting how even with elite receivers, Carroll would pivot mid-game, huddle up, and pound the football when he sensed weakness in the opponent's front. That same philosophy might be headed to Las Vegas. Multiple tight ends, full formations, smash-mouth football. This could be the new Raiders' identity under Carroll. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. Clark was blunt. I like the offense. I just don't like the defense. That's where the concern lies. Too many questions, too much inexperience, and not enough proven playmakers behind Maxx Crosby. So while 25th in the rankings doesn't sound exciting, the framework is being laid. There's a vision forming. If Carroll can stabilize the defense and fully unlock the offense, the Raiders won't stay near the bottom for long. The potential is real, but so are the hurdles. There's a reason the Raiders' defense continues to raise questions, not because it lacks talent, but because so much of it is unproven. That uncertainty is what Ryan Clark pointed to when he said, "They're not very good." It's not a definitive judgment. It's a reflection of doubt. There are young players, new pieces, and schemes still taking shape. This defense could surprise everyone, or struggle early and cost the team critical games. That's one of the biggest unknowns Pete Carroll must tackle in his first year wearing silver and black. What's fascinating is how this Raiders rebuild is being compared to the evolution of coaches like Chip Kelly. Once known for his high-tempo offenses and explosive playbooks, Kelly has reinvented himself. At Ohio State, in the biggest games, he leaned on the run game, even with elite receivers on the outside. He slowed things down, used tight ends, went physical. That's the exact blueprint the Raiders appear to be building under Carroll. With Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, the Raiders are setting up to be a 12-personnel, smash-mouth team, designed to control the clock, dominate in the trenches, and wear defenses down. It's a throwback style, with modern versatility. And if Kelly can evolve after a turbulent NFL run, there's reason to believe Carroll can too. The whispers that he's too old school or that his time has passed, they're being challenged right now by how he's structuring this roster and organizing this camp. Yes, everything is still on paper. Yes, rankings only measure past results. But the Raiders don't need outside approval, they need results. 4 wins last season won't get you a place in the top half of the league. But rankings don't win games. Execution does. The key: a fast start. This team has no margin for error. They can't afford another year of falling behind early and scrambling late. The division is loaded. The AFC is stacked. But the window is still open, just slightly. And if the Raiders can strike early, lean on their identity, and answer the doubts on defense, they can make a run. The question now isn't if they'll improve, it's how fast and how far. Now let's get to the heart of it. The real challenges Pete Carroll must face in his first year leading the Raiders. After a 4-win season, it's not just about improving execution. It's about reshaping the very core of the team. And challenge number 1: youth. This Raiders defense is packed with potential, but also loaded with inexperience. And in the NFL, potential alone doesn't win games. You need production. You need consistency. And above all, you need leadership on the field when things break down. Let's start with the secondary. Outside of veteran safety Jeremy Chinn, the back end of this defense is extremely young. Jacorian Bennett enters year 3, but he's on his 3rd head coach and still searching for consistency. Eric Stokes has flashed before, but injuries have derailed his momentum since his rookie season. Rookie Darian Porter, a converted wide receiver from Iowa State, is making the leap to full-time cornerback. That's a massive adjustment, both mentally and physically, at the NFL level. Then there's Dam Richardson, a 4th-round pick just last year, now expected to contribute in a major way. That's pressure on second-year legs. The Raiders also lost Nate Hobbs, a key piece at nickel corner. Right now, Darnay Holmes is expected to step into that role, but even that spot must be earned in camp. Nothing's guaranteed, and it doesn't stop there. Safety Isaiah Pola-Mao stepped in last season after injuries hit and showed promise enough to earn a new contract. But this is his first year entering training camp as a starter. That brings new expectations, new pressure, and a steeper learning curve. Even Jeremy Chinn, the most experienced member of the group, is new to this team. And that matters. Learning a new locker room, new system, and new culture takes time. The word new echoes throughout this defense. And that's what makes it so unpredictable. These players may develop into a strong unit, but it won't happen overnight. That kind of cohesion takes reps, mistakes, and resilience. And hovering over all of this is the status of Christian Wilkins, the defensive centerpiece. But will he be ready for training camp? Will he be available come week 1? That uncertainty looms large. If Wilkins isn't on the field, a massive load falls on others, like Adam Butler, who did earn a contract extension, and will be relied on to hold things down in the trenches. But again, success depends on who's available, who steps up, and who grows up fast. This is the biggest challenge Pete Carroll faces early on. Before he can scheme, before he can motivate, he's got to build trust and chemistry across a young, unproven defense. The clock is ticking. Challenge #1. Youth. It's the theme that won't go away. Pete Carroll is stepping into a roster packed with potential, but stacked with inexperience. Defensive tackles, cornerbacks, safeties across the board. This defense is filled with players still learning the speed, complexity, and demands of the NFL. Veterans like Adam Butler bring leadership and stability, especially if Christian Wilkins isn't ready for Week 1. But for every proven voice, there are 3 more players just beginning their journey, guys like Jonah Ellis, and a crop of rookies now tasked with holding the defensive front. Mistakes will happen. That's the reality of youth, but the key for this unit is growth. You can live with rookie mistakes. What you can't survive is repetition, getting beat the same way week after week. If the Raiders want to become a true contender, they need this young defense to learn fast, correct quicker, and build confidence with every rep. Challenge #2. The offensive line. You can have playmakers everywhere: Geno Smith, Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty, Michael Mayer, Jakobi Meyers, but it means nothing if the offensive line can't hold the line. In Seattle, Geno struggled behind a crumbling pocket. Too many hits, too many rushed throws, turnovers followed. That cannot repeat in Las Vegas. The Raiders must identify their best 5, and they need to do it fast. There are promising signs. Kolton Miller is healthy. JPJ is back at his natural spot at center. DJ Glaze shows upside. But 2 of those names are still second-year players. Depth is being challenged by rookies like Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers, who will need strong training camps to push for starting roles. The offensive line must do more than protect the quarterback. They need to move, pull, seal lanes, open space for the run game. Chip Kelly's system demands a physical, fast, and unified front. And his son, Brennan Carroll, the team's offensive line coach, has a massive task ahead. Get these players working like one unit. Success depends on cohesion, timing, trust, communication. In the trenches, one mistake destroys an entire play. If the Raiders want to control games, they need to win at the line of scrimmage. The offense has the pieces, but everything starts up front. Challenge #3. Responding to success and failure. It's easy to talk about youth and the offensive line. Those are tangible. You can see them on the depth chart and in practice. But how do you measure mental toughness? That's Pete Carroll's 3rd major challenge. Because in the NFL, it's never just about who you are. It's about how you respond. Respond to the highs. Respond to the lows. That's what defines the best teams. Remember Week 2 last season? The Raiders marched into Baltimore and stunned the Ravens. It was a statement win. But what happened next? They came home to open the season in front of their fans and collapsed against Carolina. That's what happens when a team doesn't know how to handle success. Great teams stack wins. They don't let emotion derail their focus. They stay locked in. And when they lose, they don't let a bad game turn into a losing streak. One loss stays one loss. That's the next evolution for this Raiders squad: emotional maturity. There will be games in 2025 where this team looks like a contender. Games where the run game is firing, Geno Smith is in rhythm, and the defense flies to the ball. But there will also be games where it all falls apart. That's reality in the NFL. When it does, Pete Carroll must make sure those losses don't leave a mark. You correct the mistakes. You own it. Then you burn the tape and move forward. That's the mindset Carroll is already building at training camp. With themes like No Repeat Fridays, Turnover Thursdays, and Competition Wednesdays, he's setting a culture of accountability and resilience. He's teaching this team to live with urgency, to train with purpose, and to treat every practice like it matters, because it does. It all comes back to youth again. Young players haven't built habits yet. That can be a weakness, but also a gift. It means Carroll can mold them, coach them from the ground up, and set the tone before bad habits settle in. It's a race against time, but one that can be won. Still, this is the NFL. Raw talent isn't enough. The league demands sharp minds, fast learners, and cool heads under pressure. That's where Pete Carroll's culture must take hold. So here it is, 3 defining challenges for the Raiders in 2025. Youth across the roster, especially on defense. Building a unified offensive line that can protect and dominate. Creating a team mentality that thrives after success and survives after failure. If Carroll can guide this group through all 3, then this year won't just be about potential. It'll be about production. And the Raiders. They'll be a problem for anyone in their path. Segment 3. Building a culture that bleeds into Sundays. When you look at what Pete Carroll is doing in Las Vegas, it's clear this isn't just a training camp. It's a rehearsal for battle. Every detail of the Raiders' schedule has a purpose. Every day of camp has a theme. Competition Wednesday. Turnover Thursday. No mistake Friday. Review Saturday. These aren't gimmicks, they're bricks in a foundation Carroll is building brick by brick. Why does it matter? Because this team has lacked consistency for years. Big wins are too often followed by flat performances. But Carroll is trying to change that, not with speeches, but with structure. Think about a typical NFL week. Game Sunday. Recovery Monday, off Tuesday. Then, the real work begins. Wednesday through Saturday is where championship habits are forged. Pete Carroll is simulating that process in camp. So when week 1 hits, nothing feels new. One caller from LA said it perfectly. This system gives everyone a role. Not just the players, but the coaches, the assistants, the staff, even the fans. Everyone must bring it. This team wants to be sharp by kickoff, not searching for identity in October. And that mindset, it's exactly what Raider Nation deserves. Fans spend their hard-earned money, their Sundays, and their energy on this team. They deserve a product that fights until the final whistle. A team that plays smart, that finishes strong, that goes into the 4th quarter with a real shot to win. And now, that foundation is being laid in July. Pete Carroll even took it a step further during minicamp. On the final day, when most teams would pack it in, he threw the team into overtime. Why? Because games don't end when you want them to. They end when you win. And Carroll wants his players ready for that kind of moment, mentally and physically. That's what leadership looks like. That's how culture takes root. Forget slogans. Forget hype. This is about building a team that shows up every week with purpose. Because Raider Nation is tired of empty promises. It's time for results. So here's the bottom line. If Carroll's structure works, if this team adopts the mentality he's installing, then don't be surprised when the Raiders start turning heads in 2025. Not just with big plays, but with a new kind of discipline. The kind that wins games late. The kind that doesn't collapse under pressure. The kind that competes like hell every day. Let's keep this thing rolling. Raider Rex called in, and his message was pure gold. He shared a memory from Pete Carroll's Seahawks days, back when Josh Jacobs knocked Seattle out of the playoffs. Rex was watching with a Seahawks fan, and when the TV got turned off in frustration, Rex told him, "Turn that TV back on. Let me see my boy close this thing out." That's real Raider energy. But what stuck out the most? Rex said every time Pete Carroll got mad in Seattle, he'd throw his gum, sometimes right into the crowd. And Rex made it clear, "I don't want to see that gum flying around Allegiant Stadium." And honestly, he's got a point. That's the kind of fire Pete Carroll brings. He's animated. He's intense. He's a competitor through and through. But yeah, gum tossing. Maybe keep that in Seattle. Allegiant's a controlled environment. You don't need gum landing on fans or the turf. Just a funny visual, but it shows how passionate Raider Nation is. Even the smallest detail gets noticed. And that's what makes this fanbase elite. Next up, a thoughtful text from the Raven in SoCal. who followed up on the Geno Smith youth football video that made the rounds recently. A few fans had voiced opinions about Geno's tone and language at a youth game, and Raven agreed it wasn't the best look. Geno's response was basically, "This is how we talk in Dade County. You might not understand, but as Raven pointed out, when you're mentoring kids, especially young athletes who may never make it to the league, you've got to lead by example. Not every kid's path ends in the NFL, NBA, or entertainment. Some of them will end up in boardrooms, classrooms, or running their own businesses. Communication matters. Professionalism matters." Raven's point wasn't to slam Geno. It was about responsibility. And it was fair. Look, it's awesome that Geno is giving back. We'll never knock that. But when you're a role model, your influence reaches beyond the field. Kids are watching how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. And if you're trying to build a championship culture in Las Vegas, it starts with leadership on every level. So yeah, whether it's Pete Carroll with the gun or Geno Smith on the sidelines, the message is clear. Eyes are on you. This is a new era for the Raiders, and everything matters now. Habits, attitude, tone, every detail is part of building a team that wins with purpose. Let's close out this segment with a few more voices from Raider Nation, and start by revisiting the ongoing conversation around Geno Smith and that viral video. As I said before, I'm not here to make excuses for anyone, and I'm definitely not trying to act like I know Geno personally. I've only been around him briefly, once or twice at the facility. That's it. So I can't speak on the man's full character from first-hand experience, but everything I have heard paints a picture of someone who's respected, who stays out of trouble, and who's always carried himself professionally, which is exactly why that video caught so much attention. Now, was it a bad look? Sure. Even Geno admitted it. But as I've mentioned, I only saw a 30-second clip, and I have no context beyond that. I didn't hear cursing. I didn't hear threats. I just heard Geno saying, "That's why they pay me the big bucks. This is what I do." It looked like trash talk. It sounded like competitive banter. Was it too much for a youth event? Maybe. But without full context, without knowing if there were instigating comments or heat between the teams, I'm hesitant to pass judgment. That said, I fully agree with what was said earlier. If you're mentoring kids, you've got to show them how to carry themselves. Not just in competition, but in life. A quarterback in the NFL is always in the spotlight. A leader. And leadership means elevating the next generation, not just coaching plays. So no, this isn't about defending Geno. This is about recognizing we don't know the full story while still demanding better. Let's switch gears for a moment, because Raider Nation always brings the full range of energy. Vader Raider in the 303 called in to talk about his experience this past weekend in Denver, where Metallica put on a monster show. He's a die-hard Metallica fan, lifelong Raiders fan, and a Star Wars guy. So naturally, when all three worlds collide, you get what Vader called just about the happiest place on earth. Now, here's the cool part. James Hetfield, Metallica's frontman, was a high school football player. And guess who his idol was? None other than #25 himself, Fred Biletnikoff. Sticky Fingers, Silver and Black legend. That fandom runs deep. So deep, in fact, that Metallica performed before the 2002 AFC Championship game versus the Titans, right there in Oakland. They loaded up a flatbed truck and brought the thunder, literally and figuratively. That was James Hetfield's Raiders' passion on full display. And finally, Vader Raider gave me a light nudge about something I missed earlier in the week. I was showing love to North Carolina, shouting out some fans, coaches, and players, but I apparently left something out. Curious to see what that is? We'll find out in the next segment. Trust me, you're gonna want to hear it. We're bringing it home with Raider Nation loud and proud. And we start with a quick correction. Our guy Vader Raider in the 303 called in, showing love for Big E in North Carolina. But let me just clear something up. That's actually PE in North Carolina. That's my guy. My day one. A real one from back when I first took over the Locked On Raiders podcast in 2018. Man, it's been a ride. Pete and I were just texting the other day, actually. He and his wife came out to Vegas not long ago, and I got to hang out with them. Great folks. Real Raider Nation. So no doubt, much love to PE. You've been with us from the jump, and that never goes unnoticed. Now, Vader Raider also gave a shout out to the Raider Squad show with Lincoln Kennedy. And I appreciate that, man. We're only a couple episodes in, but it's been real. Lincoln brings a perspective few others can. And when we talk ball, we don't sugarcoat it. We keep it raw. We keep it honest. If you haven't checked it out yet, make some time. That one's for true football minds. And speaking of structure and focus, let's talk training camp themes. Got a tweet from Clayball444 who said, Q, you're so right about themes making everything more exciting. I immediately thought of when you do crossover Thursdays during the season. Those always get me hyped. That's a great parallel. And yeah, starting August 4th, every Raiders practice has a name and identity. Competition Wednesday, Turnover Thursday, No Repeat Friday, Tell the Truth Monday, Bonus Day. It's a rhythm, it's a message. And it gives guys a mental reset, so they know what to expect, and more importantly, what's expected of them. So shout out to Clayball for that connection. Whether it's Crossover Thursday or No Repeat Friday, it's about focus, identity, and momentum. And finally, let's bring back the conversation about Geno Smith with one last call from Aidan Davis. He offered a powerful perspective, and I want to let his words speak clearly. Geno's got to be smart. He's a black man with money, and there are people out there who will try to tear him down just because of that. You've earned the right to be where you are. But that comes with sacrifice. You have to leave that old life behind. You might want to go back because it's familiar, but you can't. Not fully. You can coach. You can teach. You can serve your community. But you've got to carry yourself like a professional, because that's what they'll remember. That message. It's bigger than football. Bigger than Geno. That's life advice wrapped in truth. And Aidan is right. When you're in that spotlight, what you say and how you say it matters, especially when young eyes are watching. So whether it's training camp routines, podcast history, Metallica memories, or quarterback scrutiny, Raider Nation stays vocal, informed, and invested. And that's why I love this fanbase. Every call, every tweet, every story adds to the legacy. Let's keep building it. We close today's show with a final word from Aidan Davis, who kept it real, as always. He said it plainly. This is an in-house matter. The media will say what they want. Just handle it privately. Geno's got to be smart. He's the face of the organization. Everything he does is going to be magnified. And you know what? I agree. Pete Carroll likely had that conversation already. Probably didn't take more than a few words. He's coached Geno before. He knows how to reach him. Maybe Tom Brady didn't need to jump in. Maybe it was just Pete pulling him aside, saying, "Hey man, you're a leader now. Let's be mindful of how we carry ourselves." And from what I've heard, from fans, from texts, from calls, this wasn't about outrage. It was about expectation. Raider Nation wants its quarterback to lead by example. We're not asking for perfection, we're asking for growth. And if that's what this moment becomes, a learning experience, then so be it. Could it have been worse? Absolutely. Youth football games. We've seen them spiral, but this one didn't. It stopped where it did, and hopefully, we never have to revisit something like that again. That's going to wrap up today's show. But before we go, a quick note about tomorrow. It's July 4th, Independence Day here in the US. And like we do every year on this show, I want to take a moment to salute the men and women in our armed forces, past and present, who allow us to celebrate with our families, fire up the grill, and enjoy this freedom. You don't get to take a day off from duty, but we recognize the sacrifices you make. And July 4th also happens to be the birthday of the one and only Al Davis. So tomorrow's show. That's the Al Davis special. If you're new here, you're in for a treat. I'll replay an interview I did with John Kingdon, who spent years at Al's side and co-authored the book that told the real story of the man, the myth, and the legacy. It's personal, it's emotional. And if you want to understand what "just win, baby" really means, not just as a catchphrase, but as a philosophy, then don't miss that episode. Until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family, and most importantly, as always, just win, baby.